Kia ora, everyone. Shall we take our seats? No? Okay. It's a good start. Okay. Well, kia ora koutou katoa. Welcome to our final Transport Committee meeting of the term. Yeah, we can say some more about that and have some whoop whoops maybe later on. There's a paper related to that. So we'll open up with a karakia. Me karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. So first, just on the agenda, we're going to take item 8 on the Harbour Quays after item 5, which is Public Transport Advisory Group. Just thought that would be more convenient for people. And we do have the Wellington City team here. We don't have the Wellington City team here. They were here, but now they're not. But anyway, that's okay. By the time we get to the item, I'm sure they'll be fine. Yeah, I can see one. I have seen members of the Wellington City Council team moving around. But okay, so anyway, that's something for in a few minutes. First item is apologies. So I have one apology recorded from Councillor Gaylor, and I think that's it. Thank you. Adrian is moving. Oh, and an apology from Mr. Lenson for early departure. So thank you for that. So those two apologies. Councillor Staples is moving. Councillor Ropata seconding. All those in favour? Those against? That's passed. Okay, item 2, conflicts of interest to declare. Are there any? I see none. Thank you. Item 3, public participation. So we have a public participant, Thomas Bryan, who is online. Thomas, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Hear you too. So over to you. 5 minutes for speaking and 5 for questions. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, and kia ora, everyone, and thank you, Chair. I'm here representing Blind Citizens New Zealand. Blind Citizens New Zealand has a history, 80 years this year, of advocacy, blind people speaking for ourselves. And we're wanting to raise concerns. Many of our members have had issues with bus train replacements, especially on the Upper Hutt line. We're often, and this is not just to weekend replacements, but also during the week replacements after 9 a.m., that there seems to be quite often only one bus replacing a whole train. And so people get on with pushchairs, prams, wheelchairs, whatever, and the bus is overcrowded, people are being left behind, and it's just a real nightmare. And for someone with a disability trying to navigate, get on the bus, or when the bus goes by because it's so full, they have no idea. It's just not workable. And so we're really wondering why it is that only one bus often is replacing a whole train when there's obviously more people get on one train than they do a bus. And so there needs to be better consideration as to how many buses are replacing trains, but also consideration that often in off-peak hours, it's parents with pushchairs and prams that are on buses, older people, obviously using their gold card, but also disabled people who are travelling to medical appointments and the like. And if that's their only way of getting there, then it's not really doable, and they can't really keep their appointments. So we're really wanting to see some work happen to ensure that there's actually better coverage for those bus replacements, or train replacements, I should say. That's our real concern. We do have other concerns, but that's the one I'm here to talk about today, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Thomas, and very useful feedback for us. We do have a paper actually on the plan around rail replacement bus services on the agenda. I don't know if you were able to stay for that, but either way, it's very useful to have your feedback, and we will yeah, we'll address it during that item. But there are questions, Councillor Connolly.
Morena Thomas, it's Ros Connolly here from Upper Hutt.
Hi,
Thank you
Ross.
so much for your presentation this morning. I'm just wondering, you've talked a lot about the capacity on the buses, but I'm wondering if the type of bus makes a difference for you. So, for example, buses, is it easier for you to navigate buses that have two entrances, i.e. a front door and a back door? Or does the type of bus not really matter and you'd rather just have consistency?
Well, I think in many respects, if you for older people and for disabled people, if you're getting in a wheelchair, often the one-door buses a bit of a nightmare. The doors aren't that wide, um, but also for people trying to get out and people trying to get in, a one-door bus isn't an option really, and that's one of the issues with a double-decker buses. Sometimes that if it's a full bus, people can't get out the back door because of all the people standing in the aisles. And that's one of the concerns that people did raise, that sometimes the buses are um, bypassing some stations and going on the motorway, and they've got people standing in them. And if you've got, they're traveling at speed, you've got wheelchairs, you've got push chairs, and you've got people standing, it's almost an accident waiting to happen. But I think, there just needs to be more buses for more capacity of people. I mean, if you've got a 4-carriage train and you put one bus on, it's not rocket science to work out that you're not going to get everybody on it. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question.
Very helpful, Thomas. Very comprehensive answer there. Are there any other questions from the committee members? If not, thank you for coming in and presenting that, Thomas. It's always useful, and thank you all for your contributions more broadly over the years.
Oh, look, you're most welcome, and it's it's been a great honour and a privilege to be able to do so, and the councillors have always made me most welcome. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Actually, there's another question coming from Councillor Connolly. Just a second.
Sorry,
Right.
another question, a follow-up. Do you alert the bus driver to the fact that you have a disability, and do you find the bus driver assists you with entry to and exit from the bus, or are they focused on their job and don't really provide much assistance to you?
I think bus drivers do the best they can. When it's a really extremely full bus, there's not much they can do about that. I think the real challenge becomes when someone takes the train so far along the journey, and then they have to transfer to a bus, and it's not always clear where that bus is. And for some elderly people, by the time they've got off the train and they're halfway over towards where the bus may be, the bus goes because the driver doesn't know that they're coming. Everyone else from the train's got on, but an older person or someone with a disability is still, finding their way there. And of course, the bus driver just thinks, oh, it's just someone, walking across to the shops or to the crossing and goes. And so signage, not just visual, but knowing where to catch the bus when you have to change from a train to a bus and vice versa, is always a challenge for a lot of older people and disabled people. And I guess even parents with pushchairs, or little children, you can't run easily with a couple of little children and you're trying to catch the bus. So I think somehow there needs to be better engagement between the train crew and bus drivers as to, these are all your passengers, or there's still more coming, etc., and better wayfinding to get from one point to the next.
Very good, concrete suggestions there. Thomas, Councillor Staples.
Yes, thank you for this late question, but it comes off what Councillor Connolly and Thomas have just said, and it's, I guess, more directed to our officers. Is there a role where we're having transferring from train to bus? Is there a role for the station, the train manager or equivalent, who would obviously know that there are people on his train or her train that may require some assistance to be involved here? It seems because it's not like the train's going to go anywhere if it's stopped.
That's a good question. I don't actually know if the train managers are in direct communication with the bus replacement drivers at the point of transfer or before.
Through you, Chair, I think really useful feedback. Thank you, Thomas. It's Sam speaking, and we'll take all that into account and probably look to have a further meeting with you around some of those pieces of feedback. We're
Happy to do so.
to to improve the BRT experience. So it's really useful to have that feedback and the improvements, including in the way that the staff that are available work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I think we've exhausted the questions here. So thank you very much, Thomas, for coming in. And we'll move on to item 4, which is to confirm our public minutes from our last meeting on the 14th of August. Someone like to move those? Councillor Saw, Councillor Duthie seconding. All those in favour, say aye. Those against. So that's passed. Those minutes are confirmed. Thank you. So we're going to move to the Public Transport Advisory Group meeting report from the 28th of August. That was the final meeting of the Public Transport Advisory Group for this triennium. And Mr. Lenson, who chairs that group, is with us now. So over to you, Mr. Lenson.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry I couldn't be there with you today. I'm stuck in Auckland, so it's a little bit sad to miss the last Transport Committee meeting, but I will also have to sort of take off after this as well. But I just wanted to be here and again just reinforce how good it has been to chair PTAG and also obviously to be involved in it and involved in this committee as well. I think reflecting on it, a lot of our members were very supportive and very almost there's a bit of sadness in the room that it was coming to a close at the end of the triennium. So a lot of really good discussion. I know you were there, Thomas, as well, around the role the groups had in some of the work we've done and how far it's come. And I think especially to Leanne and David, who have done massive work behind the scenes, especially Leanne wrangling everybody. It was no small feat. But just in terms of the previous meeting, we also talked about the app, which, as you can imagine, had some quite not heated, really heated discussion around the role of the app versus Google Maps, and again that accessibility lens that I think PTAG always sort of has in the back of its mind, or actually the front of its mind. And yeah, we just had some general reflections as well around PTAG and what worked well and what did most things. And I think most people were quite keen to see it re-established in the next triennium, which of course is up to whoever that council may be. But yeah, that's just some reflections, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lenson. Are there any other questions or comments on this report? Councillor Staples?
I appreciate that the group comes to an end at the end of the triennium, but is there any way that if group members are keen to remain involved, I appreciate Mr. Lenson is stepping down and we'll miss him immensely. I think he's going to be a hard act to follow, but it would be good to have some continuity, I imagine, for the new triennium. I just wondered how that might work.
Yes, David.
Through the chair, at the beginning of this triennium, we agreed with council to roll over those members who would like to remain. No. So that is, if new council agrees with that, we're quite happy to proceed with that. It was successful this time.
Very good, Councillor Saul.
How do I make this into a question? Just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Lenson's excellent chairing and contributions to Transport Committee, mostly because I got to sit next to him during Transport Committee. Just really wanted to acknowledge the input and the questions that you also brought to the table as well. We'll really miss your intellect and kind of, I guess, grasping of the material we had in front of us, and hopefully you'll come back and talk to us about public transport somehow, or, influence someone who has the same capability and talent as yourself. That was a question.
No, that was very good. Thank you, Councillor Sora. I'm sure we share your sentiments. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to acknowledge Andrew's leadership. Probably the last 4 years, isn't it, or 5 years? I think this is a really good model for council in terms of true engagement, and it has actually come a long way. And just to quote one of the more vocal members, Lily Chambers, at the last PCAG, she said that everyone came in hot and gave a shit. I'm sure shit was an acronym. Yeah, I think we've come a long way. I think the staff, I have to acknowledge the staff, Leanne, David, and Andrew at back. I think they've been real key in terms of the tone and the makeup of the group, and it's been a really useful asset for policy development and also helping us around the table for decision making. So I do hope there is, this model continues in the next triennium. So yeah, thank you, staff, and Andrew, for your leadership.
Thank you, Councillor Lee, and thank you for being an active participant in the group, along with Councillor Wolf, who I'm sure would say the same if he were here. Next is Councillor Duffy.
My gratitude to you, Andrew, and members of the advisory group. In the reflections on the contribution over the triennium, what ideas came out for how the advisory group might function better in the next triennium? For example, changes to terms of reference, or the tikanga and style or work program of the group, or what was discussed in terms of that the next council might want to consider in the way it forms and structures the group?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the main sentiment was kind of that the second triennium has worked a lot better than the first one. Not that the first didn't work, but especially I think having the chair on Transport Committee has been really valuable for the group. And also I think the group's very much appreciated being involved in a much earlier stage in sort of discussions. For example, the Harbour Quays, which I think we were sort of involved with before even the Transport Committee was. And so I think that is all things that shouldn't be forgotten if a new council does set it up again, is that sort of quite active involvement. There weren't really any specific reflections in terms of what could be done better, which again I think is a really good nod to Leanne and David for how they set things up. And so really I think it's more about making sure those things don't get lost in the transition to the new council, rather than anything particularly changing massively, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And next is Councillor Connolly.
Mōrena, I also wanted to thank you for your contribution, and I'm going to miss having you around the Transport Committee and as part of the advisory group, but I'm not going to let you get off that easy. So I do have a question, a hard-hitting question, no less. It's about the Accessibility Charter, and I guess Metlink's accessibility achievements all round. I know that the advisory group has been a key driver and champion of the Accessibility Charter and better work in the accessibility space, but this is an issue that we continue having. It continues to be on our radar, and there's definitely progress that we need to make. We've heard what we heard from Thomas just this morning about issues that blind citizens face. We hear regularly about passengers in wheelchairs who are left behind at stations or just perceived to be too much trouble. And I think another group who we struggle to accommodate is passengers with behavioural needs. Again, this puts a lot of stress on our staff, and there are valid reasons why we struggle to accommodate them, but we need to do better. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are for the Accessibility Charter. How do we continue to make it real and continue to achieve outcomes for the disability community and any groups with accessibility issues? Is it through the Accessibility Charter, or are there other actions and other drivers that you think we need to pursue?
Yeah, certainly not letting me off easy, you're right. Look, I think the Accessibility Charter is a big part of it, and I think also, as you would see in the paper, the appointment of CCS Disability Action to help with some driver training and sort of there's of course the systemic issues around infrastructure and the vehicles themselves and service patterns, but also a big part of it is the drivers not being aware of different needs and how to best accommodate those, right? So I think that's a huge part of it, and if that can sort of continue, then that will make a big difference, because often it is just being a bit more patient, or it is understanding people have different needs rather than sort of your bricks and mortar changes. But no, I mean, outside of that, I think the accessibility charter is a really good point, and of course you can always do more. And I think again, if PTAG is re-established, a really good first or second meeting would be essentially asking that question: how do we better position accessibility in council, and how is the accessibility charter fit for purpose, or is there more work that's needed? Because I won't try and speak for all of the accessibility perspectives in one, but I think PTAG is a really good way to explore that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that's all the questions and comments on that report. So let me join the others in thanking you, Andrew, for your work. I was on my way to work the other day and I turned on the radio and I heard this very measured, thoughtful, constructive, intelligent voice, and it was you, Andrew, talking about artificial intelligence and how we as a country should think about how best we put parameters around the use of that. And I think that measured, sort of clear, thoughtful approach has been extremely helpful for us as an organisation. And so, yeah, just to add my thanks to that, to you for that, and to the team as well, Leanne and David. Thank you so much for all your work. I think you can be proud of what the group has done and how it's evolved. So, thank you, Mr. Lenson. Let you get on with your day in Auckland, and see you around the traps. And thanks, David and Leanne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we think we're ready to do the Harbour Keys paper now? Yes. Okay, so we'll go to item 8 on the agenda, and then we will, once we've done that, we'll see how we're going and move to item 6, or maybe have morning tea. We'll see how we go. So welcome to Tamsin and Paul and the whole team from Wellington City Council who are here. I can see officers and also Councillor Geordie Rogers. So thank you for coming in, and thank you for all the work on this. We're in your hands.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I'm going to take the report as read. There is a very, very substantive report that went to Wellington City Council with the full business case and so on, which is there's a link through from this report, but rather than replicate all of that, just bringing the key points to committee here. So this is about an update on the preferred option and the design, and looking for the committee's endorsement of the City Council's approval to begin consultation on that preferred option with a view to getting the traffic resolutions through so that we can establish the Harbour Quays corridor. The timing around that is that consultation will be starting before Christmas. The expectation will come back to the Transport Committee or whatever form the new council agrees, and same for Wellington City Council for resolution of the traffic resolutions after consultation, looking to start construction soon after that, and therefore implementation before the end of next year. Happy to take any questions, and yes, Paul Barker is here from Wellington City Council who can answer a lot more technical detail, and we also have Liam Hodgetts, Chief Planning Officer, here as well.
Thank you, Tamsin. So we'll take some questions, and just as you know, councillors and members, I may actually have forgotten to send them to all the members because I might have forgotten to send them to Andrew. Did you send them to Andrew, those recommendations? Maybe not, but maybe he has to go anyway. So never mind. There are some recommendations, additional ones, around bus stops that you will have seen and that will come up on the screen when we come to the debate. But we'll get to that after questions. So first of all, Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is around the consultation, please, because I think we're all in this together. It's not helpful if we try, passing the can and saying, oh, they, she, he said. And I think it's fair to say that over the last triennium, sometimes WCC have been in the cart around the perceived lack of consultation or the community not thinking it was done well enough. So I think really it is in both our interests that consultation is full and transparent, whatever that means. So can you please give me an assurance that when you say it will start before Christmas, it's not going to start on the 20th of December and then be muddled up in the holiday? And also, can you just give me a bit of an outline about what you're planning to do so that at the end, we don't end up in a situation where people say we had no idea? And I know consultation is difficult. I know that. I've been around the table long enough, but I'd just like some assurance, please.
Through your chair, certainly, Councillor, we're joined up completely across the project team, across Greater Wellington and WCC, and very clear this is a joint activity. Clearly, the technical side of the consultation around the traffic resolutions is a Wellington City Council process, but clearly the demand for the corridor and the potential use around bus prioritisation and so on is Greater Wellington's role. So, yeah, hand in hand on this one. So consultation is taking the full range of pre-engagement with some key stakeholders. You'll see proposing a bus stop at Te Papa, for example. So that very specific, site-specific, interested party engagement, as well as then the full range of consultation activities, including drop-ins, public information. Yeah, I haven't got a detail of the. Yeah, sorry, Hamish can answer it in a lot more detail.
Sorry. So I suppose the full range to make sure we get out to as many stakeholders as possible also includes digital advertising along the Harbour Quays corridor, the Golden Mile, radio adverts during the morning and evening peaks or throughout the month of November. And in the lead up to that, we are talking to all the businesses and residents where necessary along the Harbour Quays as well. So yeah, looking to canvass as many people as we can in the lead up to, and then try and capture all those that may be using the corridor during the month of November.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the team? There's a question there, I think, coming from Councillor Saw. Yep.
Thank you for this. It's exciting that we're progressing on this. I just wanted to pick up the point that was in Wellington City Council's decision to have a joint briefing for the two councils to discuss it. And there's a particular phrase in there, I just haven't pulled it up right now, but some aspects of the service design. So I was just wondering, where in that will we have some sort of clarity of the roles and the influence each council has? Like, obviously, we're not the road controlling authority, so we have little say over that. But in terms of service design, I assume that's Metlink and ourselves. So just wanted to tease out how clear roles and responsibilities will be for the respective councils.
Yep, through your chair, we have scheduled that workshop, and it will fall within the bounds of the induction program for the new council. I think it's late November, and exactly, yes, we will be in that workshop making clear the roles of the road controlling authority, the public transport authority. Wellington City councillors were interested in which services would use the corridor and better understanding the rationale for the approach we're proposing to take around starting with express services and potentially building up more over time. So no, it's more to clarify the roles than to confuse them.
Thank you. Other questions? No, it looks like we're good. So we'll move on to the recommendations. Do you think, team, that we could get them up on the screen? So 1 and 2 are as they are in the order paper, and then you can see there's 4 other ones that are there. So maybe I'll move these recommendations as a whole, and I think we've got a seconder in Councillor Lee. So maybe I'll just introduce the motions as they are. So first, I just wanted to say thank you to the team at Wellington City Council and to our staff for working in partnership with them on this project. Obviously, very important for us to have another route for our buses, a huge number of buses that are going through the city. They're all squeezed into one very tight corridor and it's getting quite full there. So being able to kind of take some pressure off that and have another route through that very tight portion of the city will be very significant for us as an organisation and for people who use public transport. So thank you for all the work you've done on that. The other thing, as I think you mentioned, Tamsin, the fact that we're getting new bus stops for new destinations that are currently not served by by buses at all, like Te Papa, like Tākina, Queen's Wharf. This is significant. Tinako Civic Square is going to be revitalised. It's really great to be able to have some bus stops there. So that I think is significant. On the recommendations that we've added today around the bus stops on Courtney Place, I just wanted to say that I recognise this is extremely annoying timing for the project, and we should have done it years ago, and it would have been much better if we had. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think though that sometimes when you get a long way down a project and it's awkward timing and it's complicated, if you've changed your mind and you've decided actually this is not the right thing, it's important to be able to be upfront and say it. And I think for us as a transport committee, let's see how the vote goes, but I think my sense is that we've decided actually it wasn't a good idea to remove those stops, and we would like to either keep them or put them back if we can. As I said, we don't want to, my sense is that we don't want to complicate the project. We recognise there's a whole lot of intricate funding and institutional administrative arrangements that are quite delicate, so I want to acknowledge that too. But yes, we want to send a signal that those are important bus stops and hopefully they can either be retained or re-established at some point. So with that, I will open the floor for debate. Councillor Lee, would you like to say something as the seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think it's important to actually reassess and rethink, and that, and also to listen to the feedback and retain the St James car park. Bus stop.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Are there other points that people want to make in debate on this?
I guess just
Councillor Connolly, yes.
this is a question. Sorry, but you. Yeah.
That's right. I'll allow it.
You said sort of as a throwaway comment at the end of the introduction that you just gave that they would be introduced or re-established kind of over time. When you say that, like, over what time frame are we envisaging? Is this a short-term thing or is it a longer outlook?
I think it's impossible to say, and it's also impossible to say exactly what is going to happen after the election. Things could change on a range of projects. Nothing's ever really set in stone. But I think what we want to do is say, from our perspective as a committee, these bus stops are important. We should keep them. If we can't keep them for whatever reason, we should look at when we can put them back. I don't think we know really what the timeline could be about that, but things can sometimes happen quicker than we think. So they can certainly happen less quick than we think. But I don't know is the answer to that.
I guess just generally, I have two thoughts. One is that public transport is about getting people from where they need to be collected to where they want to go. And if people are telling us that these are destinations that they want bus stops at or they're likely to catch public transport from, then I just don't see it as being a big deal to listen to the community. And the other thing, I guess, is that in everything we do, we go out to consultation, and if we're not prepared to listen to the community and their feedback from that consultation, what's the point? So I think it's a really nice, a nice gesture's the wrong word, but a nice announcement for us to be committing to the fact that we've heard the community on these, and we would like to reinstate them. I guess particularly with St James, I think that does need to be something that's done fairly promptly rather than just on the never.
Well, that reminds me that one other context, one piece of context to think about is, I guess when the design was set up for the removing these stops, St James Theatre was closed, the Reading Centre was closed. I mean, it's still closed. So yeah, but I mean, quite a lot has changed, right? St James is now open. Reading Centre looks like it's got maybe a brighter future ahead. So things change, context change, and I guess we're reflecting that as well as all the feedback we've had. Are there any other comments and debate? If not, the motion's been moved and seconded, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? That's passed. Thank you very much, and thanks again to the team from Wellington City Council for coming in and for all your work, and look forward to seeing how it progresses. Thanks, team. Okay, we're doing well, team. We shall keep going. Item 6. So, update on progress of action items. We're closing some out. Some will continue. Sam?
Kia ora, councillors. Pleased to be presenting the last report on the action items for this traineum. You'll see from the report that there are a number of items that we are continuing to work on that effectively have formed part of our work program going forward. So I'd like to thank councillors for your contributions in that regard. And there are a couple of items that we have closed out, and some of the BRT questions will be covered off in the report on this agenda. I did just want to give you a hot off the press update on the electric articulated vehicles. We are very close to the order being placed for those. There's some formality that is needed at the kinetic end to confirm that, and we expect to have confirmation of that by early next week at the latest. So really pleased to be able to confirm that. I think that's been it's been a significant piece of work that we have been working on, and with the committee's support over this traineum. And yeah, I'd just like to say, it's been pleasure working with the committee. Thank you, Chair, for chairing. From an officer's point of view, we've had a good relationship working through things on this traineum, and thank you all for your input, and wish everyone the best in their future endeavours, whether that be seeking re-election around this table or other things.
Thanks, Sam, and likewise, it's been great working with you too and the whole team. Questions on these items, Councillor Connolly?
So you've got public impacts on public transport from Te Wai, Takamori or Te Awakairangi River Link. I'm just wondering if you could provide a bit of an update more generally. So obviously what we're doing with Melling has been something that has occupied the time of this committee quite a lot over this triennium. And I was just wondering, as part of our final transport meeting of the triennium, if you could just update us with what our kind of current trajectory for closure of Melling and mitigation of Melling closure is for the time being.
So through you, Chair, I think the closure of the station is still on track for the end of this year, and we've been working with the bus operators to provide the alternative bus services that we've talked with you about before, so that contractual arrangement is...
I guess I'm a little unclear whether that is in keeping with recommendations this committee has passed in the past, PASSED and PAST. I think those dates and duration have changed quite a lot from the original paper that went to council, and I do think this is, I guess, why I'm asking, that we need to revisit what was agreed to versus what is actually happening.
Right, I could provide an update of... I can't tell you that directly right now, but we can definitely provide an update to the committee around what was in the most recent paper and what is now planned. But I can tell you that arrangements are in place with the bus operators, and that at a more at a higher level in terms of disruption in Hutt City in general. We are working on overall comms around transport and what alternatives will be available for people, and to ensure that there's communication going out to everyone that's affected around that. That's a piece of work that has yet to be kicked off.
I was going to see if there were any workshops left for us to squeeze an update into, but there are none. I believe there are no more workshops in this term. So anyway, you're already re-elected, so
yeah, I'll be here. But I guess I am just. This is something that's going to be live. Well, it is live now, right? And so we just need to make sure that it's. And I have no doubt that your team is not going to abandon the work program just because we're in a hiatus, but we need to make sure that we're on top of it, and that all the recommendations we've passed are lined up with what is actually going to happen, because it was quite some time ago that we first encountered this issue, and things have changed quite a lot.
So, Chair, we can do some analysis on that. It's a good question. I think it's good time for an update. There is a lot of work going on around the things that Sam has spoken about, but we can go back and validate what decisions are made, update them if they're different, and give you a broad overview of what actually is happening in that space.
In terms of the team putting the work program on hiatus, I think their work program actually speeds up when they don't have to service us with meetings. But anyway. Okay, so Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Question, one of the aspects of Riverlink was the request to consider which peak Hutt Valley Line services might have capacity for carriage of bikes, because currently it's a blanket no bikes on peak services. I'm unclear about the status update there. So it says that we're determining whether or which services have sufficient capacity, and that'll be done as part of an overall review next triennium. And yet at the last meeting, the update was that we have already identified some services with sufficient capacity to allow, and we're working with the operator on them. So it feels like we've gone backwards a step rather than forwards a step. So have we actually identified them? What are they? And given it is a response to trying to alleviate the pressure of Riverlink, which basically closes Melling Station, which does allow bikes during peak times, so it's about trying to provide an alternative. It's a bit late to wait till the next triennium. We actually need to be building this into the Riverlink mitigation package if we've identified, as the previous agenda said, we've identified services with sufficient capacity. So which are those services, and can we open them up for bikes as part of the Riverlink mitigation package? And why has the update gone backwards in time?
So I think I need to get back to you on that, Councillor. I don't have the answer to that at my fingertips. But I think that part of it relates to the service optimisation work that we've been doing. So there has been, in Tamsin isn't in the room, but we have got some information about where capacity might be available, but we need to look at that further in the round. But I think we can come back to you on that.
So does that mean the service optimisation work is considering changes to train timetables? I thought it was about buses, and this is about trains.
It is about buses, but we will also need to look at trains, and so and of course some of the buses do connect with trains. So there is an important piece of that in the mix as well.
So I get some more detail on exactly what all that means. Would be handy. Thank you.
Yes, I can envisage the changes around State Highway 2 and Riverlink and Melling and so on being a big part of the next 3 years. Okay, are there any other questions on any of these items? I can't see any. Thank you for all the work to the team for working on all of these and getting these through and responding to our requests. Much appreciated. We'll move on to item 7, which is rail replacement services and an update on the action plan. So welcome along, Andrew. And others? Tamsin? I just heard Councillor Connolly say this was a really good paper. She whispered it, but I read it into the record.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass the compliments on to the author. I'm here this morning because Paul Tufferu is at the Bus and Coach Association conference, so look at me as if I was Paul. Yep, this is your update on how we're going around the action plan around improving buses replacing trains, or rail replacement, or BRT. And I think it was really helpful to have Thomas speaking this morning in public participation about, really helping us, clarify and crystallise what some of the issues are around BRT for the full range of our customers, not just the, commuter who can, transfer from a bus to a train easily and, has the same standard behaviour every day. It's a very complex service. There are lots of things we can do to improve it. We absolutely admit that. That's why we're here, with an action plan. A lot of it is around providing more information, and I think Thomas again helped clarify for us a little bit about that this morning. Andrew can talk in more detail about exactly what's involved in that. Infrastructure, yes, those improvements are, not always as easy to implement as we believe, but we do acknowledge that there are some changes in that space. And yes, looking at how we deliver them and how we can simplify that for our operators as well as obviously for customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Connolly.
As I said, this was a really good question, and the paper, and the questions I asked last Transport Committee about the non-Metlink vehicles have been thoroughly answered in this paper. So that's really good. It's not to say that I don't have remaining concerns. So at paragraph 14, it says, where a non-Metlink operator bus is required and because of its age the vehicle is not accessible, Transdev will, when aware, arrange for a taxi to transport the customer. Can you tell me how many taxis have been ordered, ever, and the length of time it takes those taxis to arrive for the customer who's waiting at the bus stop?
Through you, Chair. Not today, Councillor, but we will look at that for you.
I guess I just suggest that one, not many, if any, to quote a famous Kiwi, and that it's impractical because there are so few taxis that can carry wheelchairs that if a customer requires a taxi to transfer a wheelchair, it's absurd. So we need to do better. And that brings me down to 18, which is where you haven't actually listed the vehicles and their capabilities as one of the areas for improvement. Why is that?
Sorry, can I just clarify there through you, Chair? Can I just clarify, are you saying that buses aren't included in the areas for improvement? Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they say customer information infrastructure, which is about BRT bus stops and the operating model. Vehicles are not listed in A, B, or C.
Yes. We'll take that into consideration, yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So vehicles and their ability to transport customers with accessibility needs will be incorporated into 3 areas of priority for this program.
Yep. Through you, Chair, I think we probably have assumed that under the infrastructure operating model, it was implied, but obviously we can make it more explicit and look at that particularly.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Kirk-Bernard.
Thank you. Yes, I want to follow up on that 18B there as well. So the question really is the tension between, like in Pukeroa Bay Residents Association, they're unhappy because they have to go quite away from the station to get to where the bus pickup is, and there's no shelter there, and they're concerned about that. And so I'd encourage them to wait until we improve the reliability of trains, but that's not satisfactory for them because it is a serious issue in there. So how do we handle that sort of thing? Because it seems if we put a temporary bus shelter up there, it's just that we're spending money on a something that's not long-term infrastructure in that as against fixing the problem. Can you comment about that tension? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Chair. It is a tension across the network in general, and we acknowledge that what we have is, in essence, a duplicate network that is, trying to kind of like manage trains not being available wherever possible. And this harks back to conversations that you had with Kiwi Rail last week. Last Thursday. We are looking at what kinds of plans we can jointly make for blocks of line that enable us to have more legible routes, and also routes that, wherever possible, can take in our BAU bus infrastructure and stops, so that they have the same amenity as what customers call normal Metlink services.
Maybe just to, on the same point, the better understanding, or if we had a better understanding of how long the blocks of lines will apply in different areas. And that's the point that, as a council, I'm unable to explain that to the residents groups and that. So I think something in that area would be helpful if we could get somewhere there. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Although we have had some progress on that. The briefing from Kiwi Rail last week was really good on that front, I thought. And I think there's some progress being made. But I think you did right, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Saw, Councillor Duffy, then Councillor Ropata.
Thank you. Just wanted to echo Councillor Connolly's comments on this paper and how everything was laid out. It's great to see progress in this space. So I've got 3 questions. First, to relate to paragraphs 26 and 27. And with 26, in terms of the tracking, how on track are we to have the tracking by Boxing Day?
We are on track. We have, so this is taking quite a different approach to we've never tracked these. We have tracked the services, but we've never been able to surface that in a way that operators and customers can actually get information from. We have a series of 3 prototypes that are being run over the interpeak block period that we have at the moment. The first of those is early in October, and that'll be on the Johnsonville line, just as a sort of a first look at that. And then there's 2 more scheduled in November, which will take in different routes and routes with multiple services running on each of those services.
Because I know that the first time you tried it, there was some teething issues. So just checking that those things have been ironed out and that there's enough time for the different pilots. Cool. And then the next one was about the timetabling. Do we have a sense of a timeline of when the timetables are going to be integrated into the way the rest of the Metlink services are available to passengers?
Yeah, at this stage, that's in parallel with this work. So the timetables will be in the same system as other BAU timetables, and we're working on how we surface those in a way and through the normal customer channels in a way that makes it really easy for customers to find and to make the change from currently.
So it's just going to integrate with as you do the other timetable changes rather than...
No, sorry.
It's with the tracking.
Correct.
Cool. Okay. Yep. And then my final question was related to probably a little bit from the workshop we had with Kiwi Rail last week. So I think this might be paragraph 37 on the Wellington Rail business function. And I was wondering, in that group, is there provision for, the scenarios where what would be the optimal scenario? Because I think that was a question I asked them on Thursday, which was, what would be your dream scenario to get this work done if it was fully funded? And then what are the kind of lesser options after that, where funding is obviously contingent on the Crown and the government of the time? What do we have there that we could actually improve BRT as a long or medium term thing? Where is that in that group, and is that the place where those conversations would be happening.
Through your chair, absolutely yes. Following your conversation, your discussion with Kiwi Rail here, we had the start of a really positive process with Kiwi Rail and Transdev in terms of how we work better between the three agencies, and a commitment to continue to do that. We have committed to the next meeting in a month. We had a particular conversation around block of lines, how many buses run instead of trains, and that sustainable funding model and what that would then look like in terms of better planning, better delivery, and priority on customer. So,
because I guess if, as a consortium, Greater Wellington was able to advocate for new trains, surely with partners like Kiwi Rail and Transdev, there's probably a good case, right, to go, here's the best case optimal plan to most efficiently upgrade our tracks, right? Is that part of that work, or is that above the pay grade of that particular group?
through your chair, I think it may be above the pay grade of a great many people, but it is absolutely an outcome of what we would look for around sustainable funding. And yes, the optimum way to achieve that is potentially with Kiwi Rail, Transdev, or whichever operator, and Greater Wellington working together.
And then, and from that, when might the new council expect an update for what might be coming out of that piece of work?
I'll take the word. Through you, Chair, I think this work is part of Kiwi Rail setting up a new Metro business unit. So I think when we are inducting the new council, that will be part of the induction as an update in terms of where that's at and how we work together in terms of Metro rail services, will form a key part of that. As to when that work might land in some specific changes to BRT, for example, that we probably just need to wait and see about that. But I would imagine that it'll be within the next 6 months we'll have a good feel of what our plan is, the areas of focus, that kind of thing, that we'll be able to report back on.
Thank you. Is this new news that Kiwi Rail is setting up a Metro Rail function? It might not be. I feel like this is new news for me. It seems positive that the National Rail Infrastructure owner is setting up a specific business function for passenger rail that is one of its main customers.
Yes, through you, Chair. So yes, they have taken the decision to do that, and it is pleasing. Was one of the recommendations of the rapid review into the EM80 incident, and one of the other reviews that have taken place in the last couple of years. So they've established a chief metro officer role with a structure underneath it, which includes a lead for Wellington Metro and a lead for Auckland Metro and some supporting functions in the middle.
Correct.
So we are involved with them in working through how that operating model will develop, which is great.
Excellent, thank you. Next is Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I too appreciate the quality of this paper. Thank you very much. However, it omits something very important, and that is a very laudable progress since the last meeting. Members will remember we had public participation at the last meeting from a Hemi Phillips about buses replacing trains leaving early from intermediate stops, particularly Waterloo Station, and leaving people behind. Paul Tawharu has kept me up to speed with progress since, and very laudably, we have fairly immediately arranged for Transdev staff to manage the intermediate timing points with bus drivers to make sure they don't leave early. And then, of course, the other benefit of real-time tracking will be the ability to monitor when buses are leaving by that punctuality and be able to, at a system level, intervene with it. So there you go. My commendation is for something omitted that is wonderful, responsive progress to public participation at Transport Committee. That's not a question, but I answered my own question.
No, that's fine. No, we don't need. Doesn't need to be a question. No, that's good. Very good feedback. Thank you. And Councillor Roberts is next.
Good. Thank you for the paper. I think I've got a dumb question, and it's probably 3 years too late. But in relation to bus shelters in Porirua, can someone explain to me who owns the bus shelters in Porirua and who's responsible for them? And I'm sorry, it's a sensitive time at the moment as you travel through the election process, but a very strong theme that's coming through across all the takiwa, or the areas in the Porirua basin that I'm at the moment, is the bus shelters. Women in particular feel unsafe because they're not well lit, or they're in places where there's lead lighting, and the lead lighting, I know this is a PCC issue, the lead lighting is not strong enough and women are starting to feel unsafe, particularly in Porirua. So it's a hard question to answer, but and I'm sorry that it's so late, but can you help me answer that? No, not for that reason, but I just need to know.
No, that's a good question, Councillor, and very relevant. And Hamish, I can you've got a restricted view seat behind the pillar there, but would you like to talk to us about that?
Absolutely, thank you. So we own the majority of the bus shelters on the network. The only ones that we don't own, essentially, are the ad shells, which are the advertising type shelters around the region. So that is GW, 100%. We have got a program looking at lighting at the moment. For that exact reason, we do have standards around lighting, and we try and use the existing street lighting because it is quite complicated and costly to get lighting into shelters. But I'm more than happy to talk to the team about exactly your question and your concerns.
Yeah, I think bus shelters in general is is there something like 3,000 stops, 3,000 bus stops in the region. So not all of them have shelters, but I think it's a big area, and it's quite complicated with dealing with local authorities and so on. But I think it's worth, that's probably worth something for, you add it to the induction. That's a good point.
Yeah, and driver education. But also I'm wondering if we could see it feature on some of the improvements that you're going to make as a specific issue. Well, actually, it's an equity issue for women. Yeah.
Yes, asset management plan is probably in there, but I think some specific items about the kind of gendered nature of it and the specific impacts on women, I think would be...
In Porirua in particular, a lot of women with children, but also they work evening shifts in those families, so yeah.
Good points, we've noted them, and they will be come back to. I think that's all the questions on this paper. Before we go, can I just say, I think this is a good example of the Transport Committee operating, because we're a governance body, and the difference between governance and management operations is always slightly tricky to manage. But I feel like the buses replacing trains, it was sort of not that you hadn't identified it as an area that needed work on already, but I mean, it came through here we were getting a lot of feedback on it as councillors, as representatives. We brought it here. You all set up a specific work stream on it. That work stream has developed and delivered some really great outcomes, very tangible outcomes, and then we've kind of continued to talk about it and keep it going. So I think that's a good example of, I think, how this body can work. So Councillor Saul.
I just wanted to add also, and the experience we all had as the committee and as officers to use BRT for as well, I think was a really useful exercise, and maybe something we can incorporate more in the next term as well, to experience, have the user experience ourselves.
That's a very good point. When we went to Masterton, we did get to see it for ourselves. So thank you, team, for this report. We will move on to the next item. How's everyone feeling? We might as well just keep going, right? Yep, that's what I thought too. Okay, so item 9, public transport performance. Hi, Matthew.
I've probably got a loud enough voice anyway. It's my turn to be Paul now, so I'll act in his behalf. So this report provides an overview to the Metlink public transport performance for the month of July. I've also got some metrics for August, which I've just received, so I can verbally update this committee on these. Bus patronage continues to be strong. July this year had 2.34 million boardings compared to 2.24 million last year. August is down with 2.26 million, but it's important to note there are 2 fewer weekdays in August compared to July. In July, there are 23 weekdays, and in August, there are 21. Bus reliability continues to be strong, 99.8% across July and August. Cancellations are low. Transurban are slightly higher than the rest of our operators, but these have reduced recently and are within our KPI levels as well. So officers are monitoring that at the moment. Bus punctuality is slightly ahead of target at 95.6%, the target being 95% in July and 95.7% in August. Rail does remain an area of focus for officers. Rail patronage in August was 862,000, which is lower than July's 948,000. But again, I'll just note that there were 2 fewer weekdays there. And for a bit of context, the average patronage for a weekday on rail is 32,000. So it's sort of getting to there or thereabouts. Rail reliability and punctuality have both seen slight increases in August. Reliability in August was 97.4%, which is up 1.2% from July. Punctuality in August was 83.4%, which again is an increase from July of 1.4%. Fare revenue. July fare revenue was $279,000 ahead of budget. August fare revenue was $358,000 below budget. I think the important point to focus on is that year to date we are $15,000 ahead of budget. Just 2 other points of particular interest to bring to the committee's attention. In the report, point 24 just outlines the return to the full train operating services on the Wairarapa line, and point 48, if I may mention the Christmas word, this outlines the block of line plans over the Christmas period, which will be built into Metlink's overall Christmas service level planning. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much, Matthew. Brilliantly done. Councillor Kirk-Bernard.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on that. First of all, thank you for letting us know about the August and also pointing out the lesser number of days that affect it, because weekends and weekdays make a big effect on it. And that I think the summary you've made is good. The thing that I noticed is the passenger numbers are up 2.19%, but the fare income is up by 3.6%. So if we look at our fare income and adjust it for the to bring it back to the same numbers, and that we've got about a 1.4% increase in fare numbers through there. So let's hope that continues through the year. So good work, and thank you.
Thank you. I thought you'd be happy about our final public transport performance report being in the black for fare revenue.
This is why we haven't got August.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Staples.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This isn't a question, but rather a comment, seeing as it's an information paper, and that is, of course, around the Wairarapa line. No public transport meeting would be complete without me saying something about the line, but it has just been such a relief to be having a train service that is reasonably punctual and not having major breakdowns and issues. But I have to say, the public don't trust it. They don't. All the rhetoric I'm hearing, or that's probably not the right word, but what I'm hearing is the train's late. Well, it was a few minutes late, but it was in a public meeting and everybody goes, oh, yeah, you know, and they're just waiting for it to go wrong. So I appreciate that there's nothing that this committee can actually do, but I would just like to say that it's going to take a long time for the trust to be rebuilt, that train service is a reliable option for transport. And of course, the announcement on the new trains, it's a big thing. and it's constantly being, it should be a big thing that everybody is celebrating, but all I'm hearing is, oh God, we've got to wait 5 years for this to come right. So we need to be aware of that. But thank you, great report. So good to see some of these things like being in the black. Whoa, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It's good points. I think with the buses, they were running at very high levels of reliability for quite a long time, and you could still hear people on the radio or people, on the sports fields, just hanging out saying, "Oh, the buses are terrible," when actually they were really good. But it does take time. I think it takes at least a year of good performance to rebuild that trust. So that's a good point. Well made. Next is Councillor Connolly.
So my eyes were drawn to paragraph 39 of this report, which was about the reasons for unplanned rail replacement services. And this was fairly enlightening to my mind. So the largest number of services were replaced with buses because of staff availability, 59 out of 210. If you also add in staff sickness, which in my opinion is just a category of staff availability, and operational error, over a third of the unplanned train services are essentially the fault of the operator. So I guess what are we doing to try to bring that up or bring that down, whatever? Trying to get improvement in the operations, and exactly what does the contract provide in terms of the operator having to make good on services that they are responsible for cancelling, essentially. I guess my thinking is, we've put a lot of time and thought into the rail replacement action plan, but actually some of the accountability has to lie with the train operator, and they need to be part of this journey with us. So, if you could tell us what are we doing to lower the operator's side of the problem, and contractually what is their accountability in this space?
Through you, Chair. So in terms of the contract, there is a different financial implication for BRT that's required due to operator cancellation of service. So Transdev are responsible for funding that compared to a planned block of lines. So the different arrangement there. And otherwise, the high level metric that they're measured against is the punctuality and reliability. We are looking at how we potentially make some changes to that performance indicator, and we can report back on that when we've completed that work. The other aspect is that we are looking at, as Tamsin mentioned before, with QRail and Transdev, the reasons for BRT across the board and how we can make a quick intervention in any of those aspects. And clearly there's an aspect here for Transdev. So we are talking with them about that, about improving the performance.
I guess though my point was that they are responsible for a considerable amount of unplanned rail services being replaced with buses. So they have an obligation to help us with our bus replacement plan,
yes,
more in the infrastructure space, not just driving a bus when it's required. Is that happening?
They're involved in that plan, yes. Yep.
Are they actually contributing as they are causing a large number of these unplanned buses?
They're certainly an active part of developing the plan and looking at the responses. As you've indicated, it's an issue that the committee raised, that we've prioritised as a work stream. I don't have a result to deliver to you today, but we will certainly take back the point that you've raised here around 1/3 of the unplanned replacements in the course.
Be good to know what this is a snapshot for 1 month, but in general, are the unplanned bus replacements generally a third caused by staff availability? Also, how many of those were the widened upper line related to widened upper line issues? I don't know. There's a bit more probably that could help explain that. Councillor Staples.
This is just a follow-on question from Councillor Connolly's. Can you just confirm what length of time these rail replacement services, is that just 1 month?
Yeah.
Because it seems really bizarre that we've had 22 cars on the tracks in 1 month, causing trains. It doesn't make sense to me. That's almost one a day.
I think through Chair, that would have been a car on the track that impacted 22 services, so one incident, but affected that many services. Yeah, so I guess so it's about the number of services impacted, not yeah.
Okay, very inconvenient car, that one. So next is Councillor Saw, and then Councillor Duffy and Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. Councillor Connolly pretty much took my question and had the exact same questions. I just want to know whether, given that we're also doing our bus contracts in our following meeting, where does our influence on ensuring there's adequate staffing in our rail contracts come up? Are we able to have some influence over that? Because it obviously seems like it's an operator issue. What levers do we have there in the future, if not now?
Lisa.
Good morning, councillors. Yes, so the current situation in the rail contract is that the Transdev are required to report to us on a monthly basis around their staffing levels, and they do that. We are currently in commercial negotiations with them to address the issue that they do have some staffing challenges and to look at council support for those challenges. And then fundamentally going forward, we will start next year a review of our rail contractual settings and the same approach and open engagement with a range of parties that you've seen in bus. We will start on the rail contract, even though the Transdev contract, of course, runs through until 2031. We've identified that it would be advantageous to all parties, given the complexity of the rail ecosystem, to start that works fairly soon. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next is Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Different topic altogether. I continue to be interested in buses leaving early. We've added to the performance review the useful time-lapse sort of graph of bus departure from intermediate timing points, and it shows that 7% leave more than 1 minute before. Now that's intermediate timing points. What I think we also need is that same graph for origin. So the graph of bus punctuality includes both those leaving early and those leaving late. And I'm really interested to know how many are leaving early, because a passenger will tolerate a bus being a bit late and will wait for it. But a bus leaving early is not only inconvenient, it's highly annoying to turn up and see the tailpipe of the bus disappearing down the road. So could we have a breakdown of bus punctuality, the KPI measure between early and late, and what are we also doing to prevent buses leaving early? Because there's no reason for a bus to leave early. Even at an intermediate timing point, they should be stopping and waiting and pausing until the time and then leaving, even if they don't want to.
So through you, Chair, that's yes, we can do that. It's quite a straightforward thing, and as part of the KPIs, we do measure that leaving early from the origin point, and if you leave too early, you're abated. The operator.
So everything over 1:15 is fined, essentially, is abated. Yeah. Where did the minute 15 come from? Because basically you're saying to people, you must get to the bus stop at least 1 minute and 15 seconds before the scheduled departure if you want to be guaranteed. I mean, in reality, you actually need to get there a little bit earlier than that, because you're going to be unlucky with 7% of the time you're going to be unlucky. I have experienced this. It is intensely annoying. I agree with Councillor Duffy. But yeah, you want to carry on, Councillor Duffy?
So a follow-up. So if it's abated when they leave early, does that cover intermediate timing points? And does that mean 7% of, is it just origin? So if they're required to not leave early from an intermediate timing point because it's an intermediate timing point, why are they not also being abated there? I mean, what is the incentive for them not to leave early if there's no abatement applying there?
It's really difficult on the road when you're driving for drivers, so we expect the driver to drive to the timetable. Now that might be a particular speed all the time. In essence, there's probably no incentive not to leave early, other than we want them to leave on time.
I could just make a contribution. I think the challenge with the intermediate timing points on bus routes, as Matthew said, is because you're driving on the road, and the road conditions, often depend how long it takes to get places. So we have a timetable, and that is intended to be, the usual length of time that it might take, between stops. But it's a challenging thing to incentivise or to set in stone intermediate points, particularly on long routes where the time can elapse, can be quite different from one end to the other. So I think it's a very interesting situation we're in at the moment, where we have real-time information for all our bus services, and a lot of people rely on that real-time information as compared to the timetable. And we're I think we're moving to a situation where people expect the real-time information more than they know what the timetable is. So that there's a challenge in balancing those two things. The other thing I'd say is that, for our really frequent routes, so the 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're almost at that point of just, you turn up and one will come in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So, and for those, it's a different situation for those routes compared to your route that, goes twice a day, when you're relying on the morning service and the evening service. So I'd say it's always developing, and we do need to look at how we apply incentives and how we timetable the ones, particularly the less frequent services. I think it's more of an issue.
Yes, interesting point there. Councillor Duffy.
So I accept the logic around buses being late at intermediate timing points because the bus driver can't control. But if it's an intermediate timing point, I don't accept the logic that they should leave early. And so a good example is the Route 83, which leaves Wellington and goes via Queensgate to Eastbourne. A lot of people catch it from Queensgate to Eastbourne, and that's an intermediate timing point. I've done it myself and watched it disappearing early. The bus needs to have an incentive to actually pause at that bus stop until the timed leaving time and then leave. It can't control being late, but it can control being early. And if there's no incentive, but we do have the data and we can measure it, so we can give feedback to the operator and try and change that, because it'll be, I can understand the pressure on a driver to not pause because all the passengers on board want to go. But if that's our expectation in our contract with passengers, that it's an intermediate timing point and it will leave at a certain time, I think we need to be doing something to try and make that happen more of the time.
Yes, good point. And I think having it here in the report is a good way of doing something. Starting point. Councillor Labour. I don't think there is a debate on this, so it's now or never.
But you remember when Kiwi Rail, were they here last week?
Yes.
And we asked them whose responsibility it was to grow patronage, theirs or ours, and the answer was both. So I was interested in your 32,000 daily average on our trains. I left Wainuiomata this morning 7:45, and I was walking on platform 1 at 20 past. It's a 35-minute, which is pretty typical. And I'm just thinking that we spent a lot of time talking about the 7%, but not a lot of time talking about the 93%. So how do we get 32,000 to 35,000? It's, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months or whatever. And I'm just thinking about whether we are doing enough to promote market when things go well, do we need to give a little bit of thought to where we need to put those messages, so people know that public transport is like from Monument, it's a bus to Waterloo, train to town, and then a bus to and then a bus up here. So and as you know, I've been doing that trek for a few years, but surely there must be a way that we can use the access that we've got to screens, advertising, backs, whatever, wherever, to tell the story, celebrate how efficient. I don't know whether, do we need somebody to, do we need to leave your car at home style campaign, or a public transport, discover the new, I don't know. I just was kind of, thinking about 32,000 is a very, very impressive number. And I would think with a few astute moves in the marketing promotional community space, we could get that number up a few thousand and then just incrementally.
Yes.
Yeah, through you, Chair, we are looking at that, and I'll pass to Tamsin to give you some more information about that. I think one of the things we've been looking to try to get patronage back to pre-COVID levels, but actually we probably need a slightly more nuanced approach to what our actually having a patronage target and what, a concerted effort to do that. So we're starting to think of that. And the other thing I'd say is that we do know that it's the reliability, the consistent reliability of the service which draws most people in. That has the challenge that Councillor Staples mentioned before about when that trust is eroded. But nevertheless, there definitely is a place for positive promotion, and I'll pass over to Tamsin, who can talk to that.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I don't have much more to add to what Sam's saying, but yes, I think targeted and tactical, those are exactly the words we're looking at. That relationship to reliability, we've made a decision not to be promoting how well we're doing on Hutt Valley at the moment until the block of line is completed. But the alternative approach we are taking around the comms for that, and particularly for the Melling station, is to say, okay, so trains may not be available, but we actually have all these other bus routes you could be taking. So really pointing out the fact that it's an integrated network. We have different modes, which will get you from A to B within reasonable times. Yes, Councillor, there is more we can do in that space, and some more creative thinking around journey times and relative cost compared with vehicles. They're all in the mix for us, yes.
I think if you had in the future, hypothetically, a mayor of Hutt City who got to work by taking the bus and then the train, that would be a good platform for promoting our services. So that might be something to, or even as a candidate. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So thank you for that. I think that's everything on this report. I'm really pleased with the way this public transport performance report has evolved over the term, and thank you to everybody in the data team as well for responding to all our questions and incorporating them into the report. So thank you very much, Councillor Staples.
When you're just about to wind up, but this just came to my mind. In our modern buses, our newish ones, there's electronic messaging inside, isn't there? So if we were at a what do you call them, one of the interim timing plate, could we not have a message that comes up that says this bus will depart at 8:45? So people sitting on the bus will, they'll be, why are we waiting? And it could just say it will depart at 8:45 as per timetable or something. It could be something as simple as that.
Yep, we can look at that. Tamsin's nodding. That's noted. Okay, so that's item 9. So one more item to go before we wrap up, and this is item 10. So this is just some wrap up reflections from me. So sorry if you can just indulge me for a few moments. I will say a few things. Well, actually, you can read the report. There's also, if you can't be bothered reading the whole report, there is a sort of summary version of it in the newspaper today. So that's a shorter version. Exactly, yeah. Having said that, if I can write it in a shorter version, why did I write a longer version? But anyway, I did. So I wanted to say a few things, really not so much about this report, but maybe just to say a few thanks, since we're at the end of our final meeting for the term. So not going to thank everybody, because when you start to thank everybody, you just realise that you've missed people out. But I will run the risk of doing that a little bit. I wanted to thank Darren and Adrian as the chair and deputy chair of the council for just all your support throughout the term for this committee and for my work. I really appreciate that. Nigel and Sam, thank you as well for your support all the way through. Done a lot of work on many difficult issues, and I really appreciate the way we've worked through that. Everyone in the staff team who's come to present to us, dealt with our questions and supported us with our wild ideas. Thank you to you as well. All of you around the table, some of you not here, but been a really good group to work with, and I've really appreciated that, and I will certainly miss you all from this group. Renee, Lucas, everyone in DEM Services, thank you for keeping us on the straight and narrow. Hopefully we haven't been too much trouble for you. I don't think we have, but really appreciate all your work in the background. All the local councils that we partner with and other partners in central government, Kiwi Rail, the operators who run the services, thanks to all of them. Everybody who's come and spoken to us from the public, and people who've talked to us about their experiences using the public transport network is so valuable. So I'm very grateful for that. The people in the media, journalists and so on, who've helped to tell the stories of our work here and of the public transport network, that's really valuable and important. And most importantly, I guess, the workers who actually run our trains and buses and keep them clean and keep them on the road and manage the depots, etc. All of those public transport workers, I think, are at the heart of our system. So I wanted to acknowledge them. The thing I like about public transport and have appreciated working on is that it is such an important feature of people's everyday lives, right? It's like a basic material need for people, and I think that will stay with me as the sort of key motivation for working on public transport. And yeah, just to finish by saying, I think the way that we've done the work in quite a challenging environment, you know, in many ways, politically, fiscally, and so on, I really appreciate the collective problem solving mode that we've taken. We haven't like, hopefully we haven't tried to sort of isolate, blame in certain areas. We've tried to kind of actually work together and think, well, how do we have a kind of a collective group approach to solving the problem, and I've really appreciated that. So, yep, that's my long-winded introduction and indulgent final remarks. If there are any comments on the report, we can take them. Councillor Staples.
Not a comment on the report, Mr. Chair, but as our chairman is not with us at the moment, I'll step up as his deputy to thank you specifically for all the work that you've done as chairman of the Transport Committee. It is a tough gig. It normally takes its chairs out.
Yeah, well, you know, it has done as well.
But it really is, because it affects so many people's lives, and they're quick to tell us when it's not working. So I've really enjoyed working with you, Thomas, and I say that absolutely genuinely. I think you've done a sterling job, and we're going to miss you at this table.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Cool. All right, shall we close it up and have some morning tea? We'll close with a karakia. Me karakia tātou. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia ki te urutapu nui, kia wātea, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua i te ara takatā, ko ia rā e rongo, whakairi ake ki runga, kia tīna, huie. That's us. Thank you.